We are back, and before the logo disappears, we have a big surprise coming. Here we go. Drum roll, please. There you go. Chris Perkins back in his more familiar style. Bald
That's
Chris
it.
Perkins. How are you, Bald Chris Perkins?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I might go to the beach today to get some sun on my bald head. So I got it. I got it shaved on Saturday afternoon, and I kind of feel like a golfer. You know how golfers take the hat off and the top of the head that never sees any sun. Sun is like
Yes.
2 shades lighter. So I'm still a little bit lighter, if you can see. So I got to get a little sun on the head here.
Yep, and everybody listening on the audio podcast is not getting the hint of the conversation or getting exactly what we're talking about. And I am hatless again, and I'm
You
going to
are
stay hatless. This is my public service announcement. I'm thinking I may
nice.
stay hatless until I get to the point where my hair grows too long and I don't like the way it looks right now. Uh,
Yeah.
Call me vain, Elaine, whatever you want to say. But right now, I like the way the haircut looks, so I can
I
live with
like it.
that for now.
It's
Okay, good.
stylish. It's stylish. Let
Right
me
back.
reach for some water here. Yeah. That's
Right back
no,
at
very
you. I like
nice,
the I
man.
like the bald look. That's your look, my
Yeah.
man.
Look at us, the old men trying to reinvent ourselves.
It's never too late. It's
Never too
just like
late,
the
baby.
Dolphins are trying to reinvent themselves into what? Who knows right now? And we're gonna dive into that today after the weekend announcement by Terron Armstead, to no one surprise, um,
Yeah.
that he is retiring from the NFL. I think Perk, you're in the same boat that I was. That we knew this was happening Friday, but we kind of had to sit on the news until actually it became official. Um, and all the signs had been there before that he was going to retire, from Mike McDaniel's, its comments talking about how, he has to deal with his body and everything that's going on. The fact that he took the whatchamacallit, the pay cut, and then the fact
Yep.
that he's going to decisions coming soon. We're still proceeding as if he's not going to be with us. So anybody who
Yeah.
was like floored by this news over the weekend should not have been, because that was in the works.
And there's a lot of ways to look at this. There's the loss of Tehran in the locker room, and Tehran the man. There's the loss of Tehran the player. That's your best offensive lineman. There's the double punch of Tehran and Calais being gone for what that does on the field and in the locker room. And then, there's also just kind of the big thing of you've lost another quality player overall. You've lost Christian Wilkins, and you're right. We know this list. You've lost Rob Hunt. You've lost Calais, and now you lose Tehran, and it's just you can even stick Javon Holland in there. It's just the constant chipping away at the foundation of this team, starting when Mike McDaniel got here. We'll just say of the 2022 team that made the playoffs and the 2023 team that won 11 games and was the best team of the McDaniel era. And it's just been chipping away. Van Ginkel is gone, and Brandon Jones is gone. And you just wonder, if you've got hopes of going beyond a single playoff win, boy, you've got a long, long way to go. I mean, making the playoffs, winning a playoff game, getting a home playoff game, or all of that stuff seems far, but boy, going beyond one playoff win with what you've lost over the last two off seasons, yikes.
Yeah, and the bad side of the equation as well is that you haven't been able to replace all the talent that's gone out the door with anything close to equivalent to that.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, they added Jordan
Yep.
Brooks as a really nice linebacker. The arrival of Aaron Brewer to a certain degree has mitigated the departure of Connor Williams.
Right, right.
But outside of that, and I guess the arrival, well, Devon Achane was here in 2023, so he doesn't count. But who else if you look at the talent drain from the last two off seasons,
Yeah.
to the
I mean, if you've gone from what Xavier Howard used to be to, boy, let me get this right, to Kendall Fuller. Boy, I got it.
Nice job.
How about that? How about that? To what to what you're looking at now in a rookie, right? Or Cam Smith or Storm Duck. Just look at how that position has gone down. And you're right, they haven't replaced any of these guys with, yeah, I guess Aaron Brewer would be the closest. And I guess Jerome Baker for Jordan Brooks, you came out ahead, but you're
Yes.
still missing another linebacker. The income has not matched the outflow.
No, we're absolutely without question. I want to touch on a leadership issue, and there's no debating whatsoever that Calais Campbell and Terron Armstead are multiple year captains. You want a poster child for the type of player you want, not only in terms of ability, but in terms of character and leadership and all that. You could hardly do better than those two guys. I mean, A+1 guys.
Yep.
Having said that, why were all the issues with attention to detail, players showing up late, happening last year if you have those two guys on your watch? And how frightening is it to think if it was bad last year when those two are on the team, what's it going to look like in 2025?
Yeah, that's the second one is kind of the fear because look, Calais and Terron did what they could, but being respected veterans, you don't really want to step on the toes of a whole lot of other respected veterans. Whether it's Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, you give guys their space, you respect them as pros, as grown men, as football players. So, it's not like if somebody's late, Calais is going to send them a text and go, "Hey, you were 2 minutes late to the meeting." I think maybe you get a look from Calais, or Calais shakes his head, or whatever. But these guys are grown men, and so you have to have individual accountability, and that's one of the big problems on that team. Now, if you want to go past that, I think that you're looking at a situation where a lot of the guys who recently came on board, Jordan Brooks, Jonnu Smith, Aaron Brewer, they're going to have to step up and take a bigger leadership role. You have responsible guys on this team, such as Tua, such as Alec Ingold, but they're not the vocal, "Hey guys, follow me. I'm going to give that big speech before the game and look at what I've done my whole career." And they're not that guy, and that's not a flaw. That's them being real. That's who they are. They're not the Calais Terron type of leader where guys look at your life or your career or your community work and they go, "I want to be like him." Where they look at you coming in early and watching film and saying, "I want to be like him." There's not that many guys like that on this team anymore. So it's individual leadership. And then I think you have to have some of the recent arrivals kind of set a more aggressive tone.
Completely agree. How do you view? I wrote about this on Miami Dolphins on SI.com yesterday, but I want to get your take on it. How do you view Terron's tenure with the Dolphins?
Individually successful. This is a guy who made 2 Pro Bowls. He was a leader on the team. Everything you could ask for. His body just didn't have it. They got to run at the end of his career. We saw last year where there were games where he could barely put weight on that right knee. He said at his party that he was told in week 3 that he needs knee replacement surgery. So. Look, we know Terron battled all those injuries. When Terron arrived, when he signed here in 2022, you wondered about his durability.
Correct.
And he lived up to or lived down to the expectation, however you want to put it. Nobody has a bad thing to say about Terron the player or Terron the man. Just time ran out on him. By the time the Dolphins got him, his body was pretty much done, and that's what we saw. So. I mean, outstanding job, 2 Pro Bowls in 3 seasons, but that the third season and parts of the first 2, physically, he just couldn't be the player the Dolphins wanted or needed him to be for, 17 game stretches, 18, 19 game stretches.
No, but I would make the argument that almost invariably when he was on the field, he was your best offensive lineman.
Yep.
And he made the Pro Bowl in 2022, 2023. He missed 7 games in 2023. He made the Pro Bowl on that one. I would say because of his name. I thought he had a much better case for making the Pro Bowl in 2024, but he didn't wind up making it. But to me, he was good. Certainly not the reason the Dolphins weren't able to win a playoff game, and Dolphins would not have been as good without him if they hadn't had him. So now we turn the page, and in fact, and the other part of it too is, if I look at Dolphin history, top of my head, to me, in terms of offensive tackles or left tackles in Dolphin history, in terms of ability, to me, he's right at the top because he's got the
Yeah.
combination of pass protection and run blocking.
Yep.
In terms of accomplishments with the Dolphins, I think Richmond Webb has to be number one. I'm not sure I wouldn't put Jake Long number two, even though it was a bit abbreviated, but that dude was a player.
He was a mauler.
Yeah. And then I would put Terron number three, with all due respect to John Giesler back in the was it the 80s, and then Norm Evans, no, was on the right side, Wayne Moore, early on in the Super Bowl years. But yeah, no issues whatsoever. Again, you got what you pretty much you wanted from Terron Armstead. They gave him a big contract, 5 for $75. He wound up, based on the numbers I saw in his 3 years, he made about that average of $15 million a year. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's at some point the body gave out and he couldn't do it anymore. The second you start talking about you're going to need knee replacement, that's the fact that he was able to finish the season with that hanging over his head. That's impressive stuff. Now, the question, of course, is what next at left tackle? It's got to be Patrick Paul. And to me, I don't even know why that would even be in question, because if it's not, then why the hell did you draft him in the second round last year? Of course, there has to be some trepidation as to exactly what kind of performance the Dolphins are going to get at left tackle in 2025.
There is, but I think Patrick Paul will be good enough. I don't know how good he's going to be. I think he'll be good enough, and that's about as far. That's not promising or encouraging.
Not what Dolphins fans want to hear, dude.
It's not, but realistically, that's all I can say from what I saw of him as a rookie. I'll say this, and I might have said this on here before. I hope the lessons of the 2024 draft apply to 2025, and what I mean by that is the offensive line versatility. If Patrick Paul was a tackle guard instead of a tackle, and the Dolphins usually go for the versatility, you would have been able to address your guard issue this year with Patrick Paul. You would have gotten Patrick Paul snaps. You would have still had your backup left tackle, and you would have still had your left tackle of the future. And now, because you went strictly OT and Patrick Paul didn't get any snaps, we don't know about Patrick Paul. If he'd have taken the Laramie Tunsil route, and I'm not comparing the two, I'm just saying a tackle who played guard as a rookie, we'd be a lot further ahead. We would know more about Patrick Paul. Is he tough enough? Is he athletic enough? Can he do it? I know it's guard to tackle, but we'd have a better idea. He'd be more seasoned. He'd be more confident. So I hope when they look at drafting a lineman this year, I don't know that Tyler Booker from Alabama plays guard center or guard tackle. I think he's strictly guard. That's, it's not a deal breaker, but I don't want to go that route.
Yes, it is a deal breaker.
Right? I would rather go Mimbo or Will Campbell, who neither one of them is going to be available, I wouldn't think. But somebody with versatility. Kelvin Banks has versatility. Gray Zabel has versatility. Some of these guys. So I would hope that lesson is a lesson learned, but bringing it back to Patrick Paul, fingers are crossed, but we don't know. We haven't seen him enough.
Okay, since you brought it up, I had a little back and forth with some good folks on X, and I'm gonna summarize it over here because I'm getting a little pissed off about this conversation, because to me it's so clearly point blank, black and white. There should be no even debate. Positional value. The difference between a top-notch guard, let's say an A+ guard, and a C guard, and that's going to mean for your team is microscopic compared to what an A+ cornerback is going to do compared to a C cornerback. And as proof, in the last 10 Super Bowls, there has been one guard starting that was drafted by his team in the first round, and that's James Carpenter of the Seattle Seahawks, and he was the 25th overall pick. There were two, no, because I didn't have to count Mekhi Becton. So one drafted by his own team, because people bring in, we'll see what LaQuinn Nelson and Zach Martin can do when you have if you do spend the first round pick. Yeah, Those guys have combined for 18 NFL season. They both might make the Hall of Fame. They have combined for exactly 0 appearances in a conference championship game.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, the guard's not going to get you over the top or get you where you want to go. Yes, it helps without question. You'd rather have a good guard than a bad guard. Duh. But this is not, there's no positional value. This is why this notion of Tyler Booker, just because he's a badass with the proper mental makeup to help the Dolphins become more physical, that's awesome. Not at 13.
Right. And then I'll say this also, Poop, that look, say what you will about the quality of the offensive players, but this guard that you draft, this rookie, is going to be your 11th starter. Your 10 starters are already in-house. You return 8 starters. Starter number 9 is Patrick Paul at left tackle. Starter number 10 is James Daniels at either guard. This is your 11th freaking starter. Like, you need him that much? Like, is he that important? A rookie guard? Is he going to change your offense that much? I mean, my goodness, let's get some perspective here. Come on. It's you've got Tua and Tyreek and all of that. Get some help for your defense, I would say, number one, in your first round. But, don't expect this guard to come in and be this huge difference maker for this offense. Like, this is the cherry on top. Like, the ice cream and the hot fudge and the nuts are already there. I don't mean Tyreek.
Oh, hey.
Did I edit that even?
That's funny. But that's a great point, right? That's a great line, actually. It's not a guard that's going to turn this offense into a juggernaut overnight. That's not – Sorry, there's more missing than that. Yes, understanding the guard play was subpar last year. Nobody's denying that.
Right.
We're saying, again, there's the positional value is not there. And like it or not, the 2025 season could be, another bit of a referendum on Chris Greer, regardless of what happens in this draft with Patrick Paul.
Yep.
Because the Dolphins knew that at some point they were going to have to replace Terron Armstead. And that's the guy they chose. And they made that pick knowing pretty well they weren't going to get a lot out of Patrick Paul as a rookie in 2024 because he was a left tackle and they already had a stud in there. So if they whiffed on that, if his performance is anything but above average, that becomes a whiff of a draft pick because you got nothing out of him as a rookie, and then he wasn't a good enough solution once he got into the starting lineup. So, but no pressure, Patrick Paul.
That's right. Hey, and look, if we're going to finish this off, let me say lessons learned from last year. I think Jalen Wright was a luxury pick.
Yes,
you might should have doubled down on the offensive line. You might should have invested in the offensive line at that spot, and then maybe you would be better off this year. So again, lessons learned from last year. I hope they apply to 2025. Yeah,
and that pick, which mind you cost you a 3rd-round pick this year, the Jalen Wright is the equivalent.
Yep.
If he balls out this year in his 2nd season, then all will be good with that pick. So, but they need to get contributions out of those. I don't know that there was one area of the game that impressed me more with Patrick Paul. There were times when all around he looked apart, like he looked like a guy who's going to be a multi-year starter and be good, both in run blocking. I saw some very impressive run blocking reps. I saw some very impressive pass pro reps. And then I saw other times where he looked like a rookie and not a rookie 1st-round pick either. So it's going to become a matter of consistency. There are times he's going to look really, really good because when he does, the technique is right with his size and his athletic ability, because he can move a little bit for a guy his size, it's going to look really good. If the footwork's not there, it's going to look really bad. So that's important. Okay, before we get to Tyreek, because we have to quick note on Wes Welker joining the Washington Commanders staff as a personal staff assistant, which is very interesting. He's going to work with the personnel staff, going to work with the coaching staff. He's got connections, all over the place with Dan Quinn. We're going way back here when Wes Welker first joined the Dolphins as a wide receiver in 2004. Well, the following 2 years, the defensive line coach on Nick Saban's staff was Dan Quinn, now the head coach in Washington. The GM in Washington is Adam Peters, who was assistant GM for the 49ers in 2020, from 2021 to 2023. Last year, in 2021 was the last year for Welker in San Francisco before he came over to the Dolphins. He's got Cliff Kingsbury, who's the OC for Washington, was his quarterback at Texas Tech.
Yep.
And then there's a Deebo Samuel connection, who he coached in San Francisco, is now his wide receiver in Washington. So, but good for him being back in the NFL. He was one of two Dolphin coaches, of course, not retained this offseason. As far as I can tell, Danny Crossman has not landed another job. Still on the lookout for that.
You know what? One other thing that excites me about Welker is when they say personnel, and it kind of seems like he's going to have the ability to kind of float. And I think of somebody as knowledgeable and personable as Wes Welker, and he can talk to Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels and Laramie Tunsil and Deebo Samuel, and you just think, wow, what a benefit for those guys to have somebody as cool and as level-headed and as worldly as Wes Welker to kind of go all around that offense and to give tips and advice. And, here's a guy who obviously worked with Belichick and Brady, and so he brings that old school knowledge with this kind of new school San Francisco and Mike McDaniel knowledge, and he takes it to Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel, and it's nice job, Washington.
And he worked with Peyton Manning as well.
And that's right. Peyton Manning, that's right.
In Denver. So, and then working with the personnel department, who knows, maybe this is the first step towards a career and he eventually becomes a GM himself. Who knows? But happy to see him back in the NFL. And one of the players he coached last year can't help himself, still can't help himself. And we're only going to bring it up. And I know some fans are going to be like, why are you bothering with it? That's what he wants. Yeah, it's what he wants. And unfortunately, it's topical. It's Tyreek Hill, of course, and this may or may not have been related, but there was a column from Sports Illustrated national NFL writer Albert Breer. It's kind of a notebook touching on several items, including the Miami Dolphins and their window, which is closing, if it's not already closed. Mentions Terron Armstead and his retirement, and then talks about the idea that Tua's contract, Jalen Ramsey's contract is kind of difficult to move around. But what about Tyreek Hill? And then an hour or so later, not as a reply to that column or whatever, but Tyreek Hill posts us the old deuce peace out sign on Twitter. Why am I getting?
It's a celebration. You released some balloons. Is that Tyreek?
I know. My birthday was 2 weeks ago.
There it is. There it is.
Well, when's your birthday, Perk? Happy birthday, Perk.
Yeah, that works for me. No.
Okay, I'm having too much fun with this. I know some people are going to be pissed off about it. Okay. I'm a child. What can I tell you? Okay, so anyway, this is Tyreek. It's like, what's with the piece? And, of course, we need to mention every outlet known to man throwing this idea of a trade. I do want to make the point again. It's going to cost the Dolphins $28 million in cap space to trade Tyreek Hill. If they trade him before June 1st, not trading him now and making the designation later, you can't do that. It's got to be the trade. That's the demarcation. It's not like players being released. If they trade him before June 1st, that the entire $28 million of dead cap space is going to go this year. And right now he's got a cap number of $27 million, which means his cap number is going to go up. Or you can wait. If the trade is not made until June 1st, then it's going to be 12.5 this year, 15.5 next year. However, obviously, if you make the trade June 1st, you're not getting 2025 draft picks. That's number one. Number two, with all the respect in the world to Albert Breer, who obviously knows this stuff, he's talking about getting a bounty, multiple picks for Tyreek Hill. And I'm like, multiple sixes, multiple sevens. I don't know. You're not getting anywhere near the return the Dolphins gave up to get him from the Chiefs. So it needs to be mentioned. Perk, any thoughts on this other than?
Yeah, I got a couple of thoughts on that. Number one, if nobody paid attention to that, how crazy do you think Tyreek would go? Like, would he post something else tomorrow? And would he post something else the next? I mean, we can't help ourselves. Like it's not going to be ignored. But I just
Correct.
wondered, like, how far would he go to get attention? I wonder. And then the second thing on that is I could not imagine Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel losing Terron, Calais, and Tyreek in the same year and thinking they're coming back in any way, shape. Like that would be it. Like you could not recover. Your 2025 season would be so bad that there's no way you would come back next year. I
Yeah.
mean, without Tyreek, like what did you get to help you immediately? You're gonna go from a kind of playoff team to there's no way they make the playoffs without Tyreek. Like there's if there was no Tyreek and then Tua had to miss 3 or 4 games, you're probably scoring 10 points a game and those are 4 losses or whatever. Tyreek's not going anywhere for a number of reasons.
Yeah, and Mike McDaniel at the owners' meeting said, certainly with certainty at this certain moment, they're not trading Tyreek. And
right.
Again, it's one of those where if a team comes to them and floors them with an offer, yeah, everybody is tradable. This idea of right. But with certain players, it would take a whole lot more than with others. And with Tyreek again,
Tyreek comes with baggage, a big salary, age. I mean, come on. What do you think you're getting for this guy?
Correct. And then he's not getting any younger. So, but it needs to be addressed. And again, it's not going to stop. The speculation is going to be there. It would be, let's put it this way, because I don't want to ever box myself into a corner and say, no, it's not happening. I would tell you, it would be very, very high, very unlikely for me to see a scenario where he gets traded. It doesn't make any sense. The Dolphins are not, again, in a position, it almost would be like punting on 2025 and saying, okay, we're setting ourselves up for 2026.
Correct.
And it's not like there's a big financial gain there, in trading him. So, but he tweeted after he tweeted the peace sign, he tweeted a little after that, today was a great session at the track. So I don't know if that's what that meant. A great, the peace sign, great sign. Maybe he was doing that to Noah Lyles. I'll be doing this when I see you. Who knows?
Yeah.
In the race that will never actually happen, but that they'll keep talking about.
Oh, you know what? Well, if there was time at the owners' meetings, that would have been great to ask Mike McDaniel. When there are more pressing issues, but just to see how he would have handled that. Mike, do you want Tyreek risking injury, a torn hammy or something, like running with that wrist with a cast on his right arm, being off balance? Like, just add, the ridiculous question to Mike, and you would expect a ridiculous answer, but I would just like to see how Mike would say, we're giving Tyreek all the latitude he needs, but hell no, he's not running this race. I would like to see how Mike would handle that. Yeah,
I mean, he'd find a way. It very well might be a fairly lengthy answer to get to the who knows. How do you feel about Tyreek and on the mend from wrist surgery participating in a completely unnecessary race? And by the way, we get it for those of you who are like out there going, why are they talking about this dude again? And because
he's central. He is so central to this era, to the future, to the present. Like, and in a way, look, I mean, here's a guy who, again, at the start of the season, before the first game, he's in handcuffs with law enforcement. After the finale, he's given the "I'm out" speech, and in between, it's a disappointing season, and he drops passes against or has a bad game against Houston, and he says, "I need to be out there practicing more." It's like, but you supposedly have this wrist injury, and your coach is being nice to you by giving you days off. It's like Tyreek is like the gift that keeps giving, or the nightmare that won't end, or what, I don't know, but. Yeah. The dude he just finds ways to stay relevant and make news. And if you say stay relevant for this franchise, what this dude does is relevant. If this was, Grant Dubose, who cares? This is Tyreek Hill. I'm sorry, I shouldn't. I'm just trying to pick somebody, Eric.
Wow,
what
a harsh name to come
roster, I know that was bad by me. I know I get a wrist slap there. I know that's yeah. I know.
Yeah, and we're talking about it because Grant Dubose, by the way, is still without a team. He still hasn't signed the contract for 2025. had the really, really nasty concussion at the end of last season against Houston. And it's very entirely possible that the two are connected. So this is why I'm scolding Chris, and Chris feels shame
I picked the wrong name.
Yeah, Dolphins have I think it was 11 or 12 at last count remaining free agents. The most notable of whom probably at this point would be Emmanuel Ogbah, Isaiah Wynn. Jordan Poyer is also a big name, but
what about bringing Fuller back? Would you have
Jordan Fuller? Why bring Jordan Fuller? See what I did there?
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
I don't. Well, the concerns that led to him being released, and he's another one. He hasn't signed with anybody,
right.
And it's not somebody who counts against a compensatory pick.
Right.
Which reminds me, I have to address this. He's not somebody who counts against the compensatory pick formula because he was released by the Dolphins. So it's not one of those like, well, we'll wait till June to sign him. Okay, so the fact that no other team has signed him tells you either everybody wants to see what they have before the draft, before somebody brings them on board, gives them a look. And in either case, it tells you that there's some concerns, and age and injury would be it. Calais Campbell, the compensatory pick. Did you want to add something to that before I go?
Go ahead.
Okay. Because this was pointed out to me. So let me try to do this as painlessly as possible. This compensatory pick formula and why the Dolphins were looking like they're going to get a 4 for Javon Holland after Calais Campbell signed with Arizona. And now it's looking like they might not. The compensatory free agents, there are way more. No, let me rephrase that. There are way more unrestricted free agents who will sign with a different team than there are compensatory slots available. They produce, I think it's 300, little short of 400, who will be in the pool to determine which teams get compensatory picks. And it basically, right now, the threshold usually is going to be the average annual salary, which right now is right around $3 million. Okay. I don't have all of the annual average salaries for everybody. There's a dude at Over the Cap, which is, again, a fabulous website for such matters, who does that work. I mean, and hat tip, Nick Corte, I believe, or Court, I don't know how you pronounce his last name. Apologies. He does that work, and then he projects slotting the guys where they would go, and then there's certain number who will get a third round pick as compensation, the fourth round, and so forth. The reason why initially it was thought that the Dolphins would get a fourth for Campbell was because Nick Westbrook-Akinen or another of the Dolphins' acquisition fell below the threshold where he would not be among that long list of 400 or so, or 385 or so free agents who would affect the list. In either recalculating or looking at it again, that player includes it. So the Dolphins went from having 3 departures qualifying for compensatory picks and 2 additions to now they're at 3 and 3, which means they would not get a compensatory pick. However, until such time as the signings stop affecting the formula, if more players sign at a higher level than the last Dolphin compensatory free agent they acquired, that would push them back and maybe eventually get them out of that group that counts, again, creating a net loss for the Dolphins, which brings you back to Javon Holland, projected 4th round pick. Got all that?
I don't. I'll be honest. I don't.
I don't. I'm going to write a story on MiamiDolphinsOnTheSide.com trying to explain it. It's like I've said this before. It's like an appendix to the CBA. It's like 5 pages long, and it's I mean, I have a headache when I'm done reading it. It's very, very complicated and all that.
I've tried to get through that thing, and I give up. I just give up, and I wait for the team to tell, or wait for the league to announce it. It's so, you have to have so many facts and know so many different factors that if I explained it to somebody, I would leave a major piece out, and I leave it to the experts.
No, correct. And the bottom line is they do not.
Yeah. No, you understand it. You actually dig. I give up. It's beyond me.
I kind of, sort of. the bottom line is they don't become official until, and these are their compensatory picks for next year, for 2026. Those won't become official until March. Okay. And then they also get affected by its annual average salary plus other points given for postseason accolades and playing time, which is why Christian Wilkins, based on annual average salary, would have gotten the Dolphins a 3. But because he could not add points to his score, to his like compensation score, because he got hurt so early, so no postseason accolades, no playing time met, then he became a 4, strictly on the annual average. So as it stands right now, the bottom line is the Dolphins, this is per the over the cap projection, will not get anything for Calais Campbell. And technically it's not for Calais Campbell, but it's as a whole, as a team, because they do not have a net loss of compensatory free agents. Right now they're at 3 acquired, 3 lost. The hope is that other higher contracts get signed with a higher annual average, which would bump down one of those Dolphin acquisitions. I can't remember if it was Nick Westbrook-Akine or another one of those, and I apologize for that. I should look it up real quick, that they get bumped down to then creating that net loss. So no compensatory pick in 2026 for the Dolphins projected as of right now. That could change. So, okay, last before, and I apologize for going totally sideways over here. Last thing, caught a clip of Adam Schefter appearing on a podcast throwing as wild card projections for Shedeur Sanders throughout the Miami Dolphins. Your thoughts on that?
I don't see it, because if you're Chris Greer, I don't think that Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel view Shedeur as the type of quarterback that they want, as far as the big arm that Zach Wilson has, the quick reads and good footwork and accuracy and anticipation that Tua has. I look at Shedeur as a guy who, in a regular system, he could do fine. But if you want him to do things that Tua does, there's not many quarterbacks to me that can thrive in this system. And Cam Ward wouldn't, Shedeur wouldn't, Jackson Dart wouldn't. I don't think any of them would.
That's me adjusting though. It's not like.
Yeah. I don't think any of these quarterbacks fit what the Dolphins would want as a starter. So I wouldn't see them taking any of them at number 13. Cam Ward won't be there. So
no. I wouldn't either, because I don't think the Dolphins are punting on 2025, and that would be a sign that they're punting on 2025. Could there be some merit in acquiring their quarterback of the future with a guy who's some like a lot as a quarterback? What I've seen of him, he's very, very smooth. He's got nice improvisational skills, and he's got a nice feel. He's just got he knows how to play quarterback. And this whole doesn't fit the system thing. So again, if he learns a couple of years while Tua, then you move on from Tua,
right,
then you tweak everything towards what Shedeur does best. So I'm not necessarily buying that, but to me, more so, it would be a sign that you're punting on 2025 if you draft a quarterback that high, and I don't think that's where the Dolphins are inclined to do at all. Just like I'm with you though, and we've repeated this. Pardon me. And we'll continue to repeat this until April 24th. To me, it's got to be defense way more than an offensive lineman.
Yeah, and look, I like the idea of what Anthony Weaver could do with a cornerback, pairing him with Jalen Ramsey, even with a safety. Maybe a Malachi Starks, and you have him with Jalen Ramsey, because Starks can do so many things. A D tackle paired with Zach Sealer. It's not just the individual player. It's the individual player. It's what it would do for the unit and what it would do for the defense overall. And when you think about that and Anthony Weaver calling the shots, I think the defensive player has more value than the guard. So I would like to see the defensive player.
Completely agree. Again, it's about maximizing. To me, it's got to be about maximizing the immediate impact, and that's
right.
So That's going to wrap it up. He is my good friend, Chris Perkins. New look, old look, Chris Perkins from the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Catch his fine work at sunsentinel.com. Unless I'm massively mistaken, you have a Dolphins deep dive scheduled for tomorrow, Tuesday at noon with David Ferona's bonus. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. You just gave the promo right there. So, yeah, tune in, sunsentinel.com.
Okay, and since I'm in the mode of promos, want to let you guys know that we are starting along with 3 other well-known, famous, beloved, maybe Dolphin podcasters. We're starting a new project on Tuesday night, 9 p.m. It's going to be live on YouTube. It's the Dolphins Collective. Check it out. Subscribe. It's going to be myself, Omar Kelly, T Defense Talk, and Dudley Duron. And I'm sure every conversation is going to be very, very mellow. There'll be no disagreement, not whatsoever.
That's right.
Did I kid? There's going to be fireworks all over the place. This is a side thing. The Old Dolphins podcast is not going anywhere. Promise you that. It's going somewhere tomorrow because unless there's news that we need to report on, we'll be back here on Wednesday. So please like, subscribe to both, actually. The All Dolphins podcast, first and foremost, the Dolphins Collective. Next, as 2 must-listens. Check out Perk's Dolphins Deep Dive on Tuesday. Catch my written content and that of the staff, MiamiDolphins and SI.com. Thanks, everyone.